from 1963.
Good evening and thank you. Our programme this evening comes from the BBC Television Theatre in London. Now, half an hour ago, those seats that you're all sitting in were empty, all but one. Most of the lights were out, most of the staff were at what is known as the tea break, but two cameramen stayed behind. These cameras were all but invisible to anyone who was out front in this theatre. Now, we knew that two famous stars were going to pass through this theatre on their way from rehearsal. I was sitting there waiting for them behind that newspaper, wondering what was going to happen when they did come. Hello, Eric. Hello, Hattie. How are you? Let's have some lights, please, may we? I know that you've been rehearsing all day and you're probably very tired, but we have a big surprise. Because tonight, Hattie Jakes, this is your life.
You're kidding, of course.
I'm not kidding, of course. And hidden away here are all sorts of lovely surprises for you. You come with me.
Well, then come, darling.
Hattie's had no time to get her breath back because you, the audience, came in immediately after that happened. But she has agreed to delay her homegoing for the next 30 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, Hattie Jakes. A rather shaken Hattie Jakes, I might tell you, but here and now, to start your story, Hattie, we have one of the most eminent names in the world of entertainment, the man who walked in this theatre with you tonight, Eric Sykes.
Seen you since... Hey, who's your friend? Who's your friend?
Hattie Jakes. Sit down, Eric. If you don't know Hattie Jakes, how do you do all these wonderful comedy shows together?
Oh, I've known this for a week. I've been dying to tell you.
I wish you had.
Well, you know, you're probably, there's going to be lots of people tell you how funny you are. I'd like to say something off that doesn't happen on, you know? A little thing. When I was in hospital recently, I wondered why Hattie hadn't been to see me for a few days. Eventually she came to see me every day after that. It wasn't until after I got out of the hospital that I realized that why she hadn't come in the early part was that she'd been in hospital herself and didn't want to tell me in case I was worried about it. Now, this is the sort of woman. See, I could tell you... Have we got time?
No. Now, I know, Eric, quite apart from gags, that you could go on singing Hattie's praises all night, but we do have other guests waiting to meet her.
Oh, it's one of these dudes, is it? Right.
Thank you very much, Eric Sykes, for all your... Well, now, this is your life, Hattie Jakes. Sandgate in Kent is the place of your birth, and there you lived until you were 2 years old, when, on the death of your father, your mother brought you and your brother Robin to London. Your school was the Godolphin and Latimer School at Hammersmith. Now, great things were expected of you here in the way of scholarship, but your heart was already pledged in another direction. Can you remember a time when you were not stage-struck?
No, still am.
I know you are, but from being a stage-struck girl to becoming a professional actress is a long and difficult step, even when one is as naturally talented as Hattie Jakes, and the Second World War didn't exactly help you to achieve your ambition. With London under constant bombardment from the air, you were anxious to play your part in the national emergency, and on May the 9th, 1940, found you enrolling as a VAD with the British Red Cross Society. Brook Green was the centre to which you were sent for training. It was here in 1943 that you last met your divisional director in the Red Cross Society, who is here again to greet you tonight, Miss Vivian Catlow. Now, I know that you were responsible for her training, isn't that right, Miss Catlow? What happened when she finished her training?
Well, after she'd done her training in the wards of Hammersmith Hospital, she became a mobile VAD and continued her work in the hospital and in the shelters in and around the area of Hammersmith.
This is the air raid shelters and underground stations and so on?
Yes, indeed she did. She would often be called out to an incident, a bombed incident, and then come back and volunteer for hospital duty and go straight along, probably to Hammersmith Hospital, and go on to the wards and continue her work. She was always a great asset to us as a VAD in Hammersmith, and as everyone can imagine, always cheerful.
Thank you indeed, Miss Catlow.
Thank you so much.
Well, just as Eric Syke told us there a moment ago, maybe there's something else you didn't know about Hattie Jakes. And her training as a wartime nurse may have stood her in good stead when in 1959 she burst upon an unsuspecting nation as the battle axe of a matron in the film Carry On Nurse.
Morning, mate.
Morning, Doctor. Morning, sister. Those screens are untidy, sister. Oh, I'll keep them away. Morning, Mr. Rickett.
Good morning, matron.
Your temperature's behaving very oddly, I see.
Perhaps it'll settle down when I get up.
Well, now, your brisk and professional manner in that particular film left a very deep impression on one young actress playing opposite you.
Quite frankly, Hattie, I was almost paralyzed with fright when I first met you.
Well, in spite of her fright, she's here to greet you tonight from the Prince of Wales Theatre, where she's starring in Come Blow Your Horn, Shirley Eaton. Shirley, did you imagine that the real Hattie Jakes was like the character of the matron in that film?
I was sure she was. We first met at the studio on the set, and Hattie was going on like a real-life Corgan. And when she asked me to have lunch with her afterwards, I didn't dare refuse.
And like most actors when they get together, you spent the whole of that lunch talking shop?
No, we didn't. We talked about children. The problems of bringing up children and having a career as well. And Hattie was such a different person to what I'd thought. I discovered that Hattie's secret formula for being such a great success as a comedy actress and as a mother. She's a very real, warm, and lovable human being.
Well, now, Shirley, we have a car waiting to take you to your theatre for curtain up, and thank you, Shirley Eaton.
Thank you, Hattie. It's been mornings, I'm sorry.
But in 1943, Hattie, these things are still in the distant future. You're still a hard-working VAD, nurse in blitz-torn London. One of your greatest pleasures at this time is an occasional visit to the world-famous Players Theatre. Now, hearing that auditions are held every other Thursday at the Players, you pluck up your courage and apply to be heard. On the appointed day, clutching your collection of songs, you walk nervously onto the stage and turn to the man who's to hear your audition.
Ladies and gentlemen, your very own, Hattie Jakes!
The famous voice that has since introduced you to hundreds of audiences you know so well, celebrated actor and erstwhile chairman of the Players Theatre, Leonard Sachs. Well, now, Leonard, all auditions are miserable, nervous affairs. Do you think that perhaps this is one we should draw a curtain over?
Oh, no, I don't see why we should. I found exactly what I was looking for, and I couldn't believe my good fortune in having discovered it.
You saw her quality at once, then?
Well, I'd have been blind if I hadn't. You know, Hattie, I remember one very special detail about that audition. You came along in a white jumper with a great flaming dragon emblazoned across the front of it. Cat Schindler.
Wasn't she at all nervous, Leonard?
Yes, of course she was nervous, of course, but I was used to that. I'd got very used to listening to, the little homemade talents that should have been reserved just for domesticity. But when Hattie started singing A Little of What You Fancy Does You Good, I relaxed and knew I was home and dry and sat back with a smile on my face.
Were you able to offer her a job?
Yes, the audition was on Thursday and she went into the bill on the Monday night. I'd been looking for a long time for somebody to sing Mary Lloyd's songs, and I was delighted to have found her.
Just look at that screen behind you there.
There we packed a week for track on the tailboard of the back. There wasn't any room for me to ride. Come on, everybody, sing!
There's no need to tell you she was an immediate success, and she's gone on ever since from there.
Indeed she has, and thank you, Leonard Sachs. Now, the year 1950 sees you making your first important film, Chance of a Lifetime. Now, during the making of that film, the director, who also co-starred, hired a professional welder to show you how to handle those welding tools.
But Hattie just waved the professional away. It was she who showed the rest of us how it should be done.
Yes, I know you've recognized that voice. Brilliant star of stage and screen, founder of London's Mermaid Theatre, Bernard Miles. Bernard, as you say, it was Hattie who showed you how to use those welding tools.
Well, that's right, yes, she did. But she had done some welding before.
Yeah, but this is how she had previous instruction then? In what
yes,
way?
Indeed she had. I remember when she came to get the job and she sat on the chair facing me, and we settled a price, because these things are always a matter of hard bargaining, and I offered her what I thought was a very handsome fee for these 17 days' work. And she said, I wouldn't care to accept that at all. And I said, but why not? She said, well, I've been in industry, you know. And I said, what have you done in industry? She said, I've been a welder. And I said, what on earth have you welded? And she said, I spent part of the war years, she said, welding Bailey bridges and pontoons. Well, it's quite clear that you can't offer an actress who's welded Bailey bridges and pontoons the same as you would offer an ordinary actress. And so we had to really come up to her price, and I must say she was worth every penny of it, and more, because she's a born actress, very witty, sensitive, warm, and with a lot of acting intelligence, and should be used constantly in front of the cameras. And I hope that very soon, in fact, there is a play going off in the post to her very soon, and I hope we're going to be able to put her on the stage again in a beautiful play.
Thank you, Bernard Miles. Well, another very important event in your life, Hattie, in that same year, on November the 10th, 1950 to be precise, you married well-known actor John Le Mesurier. Well, John, I understand, and I know that you're at double risk now, of course, but I understand that you were surprised that Hattie was on time at the wedding.
Well, I must confess I am rather inclined to be a bit surprised, you know, when Hattie arrives for anything, really, but it's purely because there's sort of a standing joke in our family. I'm one of these curious people who, for some extraordinary reason, find it necessary to get to appointments and rehearsals and things about half an hour too soon. There I am, sort of wandering about like an idiot, you see, nothing to do.
And Hattie?
Well, you see, she, I would think, sort of makes every moment, you see, count in some kind or another. Everything's terribly important when she's leaving the house or dragging out to some rehearsal of some kind. There are so many things to be done, you know, ordinary, rather dreary, mundane things like shopping lists and maybe a fuse has gone or 101 things. But a cupboard even, for some unknown reason, might have to be turned out at the last moment. And off she goes, you see, like a whirlwind to rehearsals or whatever it may be. And how she manages to make it, I really wouldn't know, but she seems to. It would appear that she does.
So there's never a dull moment with Hattie, in fact?
No, there isn't really. I would like to say that I am eternally grateful to the way she runs the home, looks after the children, looks after me. The home comes first, really, I think I'm right in saying. But I think for somebody who is so busy all the time and so much in the public eye all the time, to do all these things is very difficult and a jolly neat trick.
Thank you, John de Mercier. Now, in November 1960, you received a letter sent by the men of number 10 mess on the aircraft carrier HMS Victorious. They had decided they wanted to be different. Instead of being adopted by a factory or a brewery, as is sometimes the case, these lads decided they wanted a mum. So they agreed that Hattie Jakes was the one person who was fitted to fill this bill, and this decision was unanimous.
So we wrote and told her how we felt, and asked her to adopt us.
Now, you've never met before tonight, but one of those lads to continue the story, leading seaman Rodney Conroy. Well, Rodney, did Hattie agree to adopt you?
Yes, she was delighted when she agreed with us. She even sent us a couple of photographs and a photograph of her 2 children.
Now, wasn't there some danger of you losing your newfound mum?
Oh yes, the officers, they tried to make a takeover bid. They wanted the Hattie as a mum for the whole squadron, but we fought it. I'm glad to say we won.
But number 10 mess has never had a chance to meet their adopted mum, did they, Rodney?
No. Every time we tried to make a meeting, a sort of family reunion, we were just sailing to the Far East or somewhere. And in April '62, well, the whole squadron, if you remember, disbanded.
Well, nevertheless, we're going to have that meeting tonight. From all over Britain, here are some of your boys, Hattie. Petty Officer Hall. Petty Officer Bush. Petty Officer Davis. Leading Seaman Hudson. Leading Seaman Anderson. Leading Seaman Henson. And leading Seaman Bromfield. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining our program tonight. Thank you very much indeed. Well, now, in 1961, Hattie Jakes scored yet another great comedy success when she starred in the film In the Doghouse.
Well, if you'll excuse me, I've got to see a man about a dog.
Oh, it's just through that door, then.
A bulldog.
Well, co-starring with you in that film was an actor, as you can see, who has made a number of successes with you. Carry On Nurse, Carry On Teacher, Carry On Constable.
And now it looks as though we're together in Carry On Hattie.
Yes, star of stage, radio, screen, television, Leslie Phillips. Well, as I've said, Leslie, you and Hattie have starred in quite a number of films. Which one did you enjoy the most?
Well, I've enjoyed all of them. I always enjoy working with Hattie, and I should think it goes for just about anybody in this business that's ever met her. She's a very popular girl. But I must admit that there was a time when I was a tiny bit jealous of her popularity.
Oh, why was this?
Well, we were making this film in the Doghouse, and, I was playing opposite a chimpanzee, actually. Very pretty little thing, you know. And I was rather keen to get on with her, but unfortunately she only had eyes for Hattie. They used to have coffee together, lunch together. I couldn't even see her in the evenings. Anyway, this went on. I was really so fed up about it, but unfortunately one day she was ill. But they decided rather than hold up shooting, they'd get an understudy for her.
And what happened?
I thought this would be my big chance, you know. Wanted to get one over on Hattie. So the understudy turned up. She wasn't quite so pretty, but she took one look at me. I looked at her, and well, I don't want to brag, Eamon, but it was a question of sort of love at first sight. She jumped into my arms, put her arms around me, looked at me. Just a great big grin came across her face, and then she spat straight in my eye. The producer, Hugh Stewart, came over and said, "Leslie, you know, this chimpanzee is not only an actress, she's a critic."
So you just couldn't win, Leslie?
No, I don't think I'm going to win tonight either, because Rosie, in spite of a temperature of 102, is here.
All the way from Preston in Staffordshire. You see, there's your Rosie from your film.
You see what I
mean? This, I can see Rosie would be very happy to stay here all night, but I think you better persuade her to go. What, don't you think?
Please.
Thank you very much, Leslie Phillips. And thank you, Rosie. Now, over the years, Hattie Jakes, as you know, has established herself as a #1 favourite among television comedy actresses. But behind the scenes, Hattie Jakes was doing much more. For instance, in 1960, Hattie was asked to receive a cheque on behalf of the East London Spastic Society. And while talking to various members of that society, she was so touched by their concern and tireless work for spastic children that she became a member herself and has since been elected their president. But she's not just a celebrity figurehead. She takes a real active interest in the children herself.
I'll never forget how she came to see me one night about my little girl.
One of the members of the East London Spastic Society and your very good friend, Mrs. Alma Berry. Mrs. Berry, would you tell me what happened when Hattie called to see you about your little girl?
Well, I'd never met anyone famous like Hattie before, and I had the clothes horse in the room, but when she said, "I wouldn't put mine away if you came to my house," I knew we were going to be old friends.
Did you ever meet her again?
Oh, yes. She went to see my little girl in hospital and took her a lovely bracelet for her birthday.
But as you told us,
But this is only one of the many little kindnesses that Hattie does for us.
And does she make a good president of your society?
Well, when I tell you she's raised over £5,000 for the society, you can form your own opinion. We all feel that she's not only a wonderful president, she's a valuable and understanding friend as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Berry. Thank you. Now, we all know about Hattie Jakes, the actress. Tonight we've heard a little about Hattie the nurse, Hattie the president of the East London Spastic Society, but now it's my privilege to introduce to the world Hattie Jakes, the lyric writer. I want you to listen to a few bars of one of your songs, Hattie, and tell me if you know the name of the musician who wrote this song with you.
Don't ask why I'm crying.
Can you remember that?
I can't tell.
That voice, you haven't met the owner of that voice since you saw him off to Canada in 1946. But back from Toronto for you tonight is Victor Brooker. Victor, did Hattie really write the words for that song?
Yes, we worked together on about 10 songs, and that was our best number. You see, I was a leader of a big jazz band, and Hattie was, and I was a fan of Hattie's when she was at the Players Theatre.
And wasn't Hattie a jazz enthusiast too?
Oh yeah, she was the mascot for the band. She used to come and see us when we went off. She used to come and see us off when we went on tour. And one time when we were stuck for a place to live, she found a flat for us in the same house as hers. She was a great one for cleaning and decorating the place, but one time I think she went a little too far.
When was that? How was that?
Well, we were on tour, and she decided that that was a good time to repaint the bathroom. And but I came back earlier than expected, and I came home at 4 o'clock in the morning, terribly tired, and I was aware of the fact that there was paint smell around the place, but I didn't realize how thorough Hattie had been until it was too late. She had also painted the most important piece of furniture.
Thank you, Victor Brooker. Well, Now, whenever Hattie Jakes is around, comedy seems to follow. And I wonder if Hattie remembers the time when she and her husband took a well-earned holiday in France. Let me set the scene for you. The time was the spring of 1954. The place, the lounge of your hotel in Paris. Suddenly you hear a familiar voice.
Bonsoir, mademoiselle. A good idea, garçon.
Yes, of course, the voice of the one and only Max Bygrave. Well, Max, it must have been a great relief to you and a pleasure to have Hattie rushing to your assistance.
It's a good job to get in here. There's a fella with a striped jersey out there been stuffing caramels up my nose.
Yeah. Well, Hattie sprang to your rescue, did she?
In France, yeah. I was trying to check in at the hotel. I don't speak very good French, you see, and Hattie speaks very good French, and she came and helped me.
You were on holiday too, were you?
Yeah. Well, there was John, you know, Hattie's husband, and my wife, and the four of us, you see. We're very good husbands. We take our wives to Paris. I must tell you a story. This is absolutely true. It sounds like a joke, but it's true. And one night we'd been out, and we had a very good evening, do you remember? Mm-hmm. And then we went over to the left bank, and we finished up in a sort of a bistro, a very low joint. And there were girls with sort of slit skirts and long cigarette holders, you know.
This does sound like the build-up to a gag.
And all down the walls there were long, dirty cracks, and I couldn't read them. They were in French. And John and I, Hattie's husband and I, we had to go to the powder room, you see. And while we were in there, we heard a shriek of laughter, and we came back. There was Hattie and my wife, and they were laughing so much, tears were coming from their eyes, and it took about 10 minutes to settle down. Now, the story is this. While we were in the powder room, a couple of English tourists came in, you see, and they saw Hattie and my wife alone, and this Englishman walked up to Hattie and my wife, Blossom, and thought they were ladies of the joint, you see. Manners. And this fellow walked up to Hattie and said, "Oh, bonsoir, mademoiselle. Voulez-vous promenade avec moi ce soir?" And Hattie said, "Ah, monsieur, parlez anglais?" With a straight face, you know, the fellow said, "Oh, oui." She said, "Well, go and take a running jump in the lake."
That was just the start of the evening, I imagine.
It was nearly the end of the evening. Well, I would like to say this about Hattie, you know, I know what it's like on this program, but, you know, the nice thing about Hattie, everybody knows about her wonderful sense of humor. For me, the thing I like about Hattie is her professionalism. When she's called for a job, she's on time, she does the job well, she gives her very best, and I think that's the greatest thing you can give to a professional, you know, when you do that sort of job. Hattie, I love you.
Yeah. Thank you, Max Bygrave. Thank you. Finally, Hattie, let me just repeat what we've made clear, that behind this public image there are many things, but particularly you're essentially a family girl. And in case you think we've been keeping you too long away from your family, let's remedy that at once. 4 generations of the Jakes family. Your brother Robin, your husband John, and your sons Robin and Kim. Not forgetting the one you heard growling, your dog Blades, your mother Mrs. Mary Jakes, and probably your biggest surprise of all, your 89-year-old grandmother Mrs. Adelaide Thorne. This, Hattie Jakes, is your life.
If you missed it earlier, there's another chance to see our brand new drama Hattie here on BBC4 this evening at 5 to midnight. That's here after a double bill of Girls Who Do Comedy next with Dawn French.